I had actively participated in every moment of the creation of this life. So why didn't I see myself in any of it?
So this movie is for my people who have ever lost themselves. In a career, in a person, in a lifestyle. For those of you who've ever felt hollow after an ending or during your day-to-day life. The movie Eat, Pray, Love is never one I thought I would watch. It seemed way too long and the storyline seemed kinda dry, but it was on Hulu, so I gave it a go. And let me tell you, I was absolutely correct. But regardless, there is a message in it that deserves to be in the spotlight. I'm Kayla, and this is my series I call Movies with a Message, where we uncover the hidden messages in movies so that we can evolve and live our most fulfilled lives. And the message in this movie is all about the ego. What is the ego? Your ego is like your I, like in the statement, I am. It's what you openly identify as in your conscious mind. It's what you would present to people when they ask words that would describe you. A lot of people like to attach their career to this I am because capitalism, or they attach who they are in relation to another person. Hi, my name's Kayla. I'm an engineer, content creator, daughter, sister, girlfriend, dog mom, and it's also the positive things we see ourselves as. I'm intelligent, kind, inclusive, passionate, and the list goes on. However, the problem with this ego identity is that it's not all of who we are, and it typically only consists of the identities that other people praise us for, which makes it the direct opposite of the shadow. For a movie to help you understand the shadow, check the info card above. But for now, we're gonna talk about the problem when you're living with too much ego. Living with too much ego can lead you to living your life like Liz, where you struggle to find balance between yourself and others, where you're in relationships that don't satisfy you, where you're chasing physical things hoping they'll solve your problems, not being able to enjoy the moment, and being too self-centered or too self-sacrificing. To counteract this and live a life that's more in alignment with your authentic self, all you have to do is learn to quiet your ego. Disclaimer: this is not the same as silencing your ego, as some people will have you attempt. Really, there isn't a whole lot of benefit in a silent ego. All you want to learn to do is turn the volume down. According to a study called the Quiet Ego Scale, there are 4 elements of achieving a quiet ego. And in the movie Eat, Pray, Love, the main character Liz experiences all 4. After she leaves behind her whole life after a messy divorce and a short-lived rebound relationship to travel the world. Liz's life was on the brink of change when she met the Indonesian medicine man in Bali named Ketut, who predicted that she would have 2 marriages, one short and one long, lose all her money, and then eventually come back to Bali and teach him English. Initially, Liz shrugged him off like, yeah right, Ketut. That doesn't even make any sense because I'm happily married. But then a few months later, she begins to get the feeling that he might have been right about her current marriage. Liz seems to be increasingly frustrated about her husband's lack of direction in his career. She notices that every new person he meets inspires him to take a new path. What Liz doesn't realize is that this relationship is actually holding up a mirror. So here's the deal. Some people we meet will either mirror what's hidden in our darkness, or they will mirror our light. Liz's husband, Steven, is mirroring her darkness because she lacks direction in her life but doesn't realize, often losing herself in relationships and molding herself into who they need her to be, which becomes incredibly clear to her after she divorces Steven and rebounds with David. Liz has no balance between the self and the other. In relationships, she's too self-sacrificing, and in her perspective, too self-centered. At this point in the movie, we realize that Liz could probably benefit from a quiet ego. So Liz decides that this life is just not for her. She's gonna leave behind her messy divorce and her current boyfriend and travel to Rome, India, and Bali to find herself. But from the jump, the moment she gets to Rome, she realizes that this trip is not going to be about romantic relationships. Nope. Her rent lady tells her that one of the rules is that she's not allowed to let men stay the night, forcing her to spend her nights alone or in some strange man's house, and I don't think that's the best option. But Liz lives it up in Rome. She's able to connect with people in a non-romantic way who know how to enjoy the pleasures of life. Something that Americans stuck in hustle culture have a hard time achieving, by the way. But in Rome, Liz doesn't just eat, she savors the food in front of her. She learns a language, she appreciates the syllables in the words. She buys a lingerie set, not for a man, but because it makes her feel good. In all of these experiences, Liz practices detached awareness, which is element number 1 of a quiet ego. It's all about observing your actions in the current moment without passing judgment, which is something that really does take practice. Through this detached awareness, she's able to see her current relationship with David much more clearly. And this is where she begins to balance the scales between the self and the other. Detachment without concern for the self will leave you like David. Accepting that the relationship you have is screwed up and you're not happy, but staying anyways. In Rome, Liz is able to observe the dynamics of her relationship without passing judgment on it. At the same time, she's able to have enough concern and love for the self to choose what's best for her. She decides that what is best for her is not staying in this relationship out of fear that there is nothing else out there. You can tell Liz has mastered this detached awareness at the end of her time in Rome. When someone is passing judgment on her choices, criticizing her for choosing herself, asking if she's a lesbian, if she's crazy, this lady went in. And even though she knows everything this woman is saying, she doesn't take it personally. She's able to detach herself from the opinion of others. So she's able to let people be who they're going to be while still remaining who she is. I was like, go Liz. After Rome, Liz travels to India to visit her guru and dives right into selfless devotional work. She meets a young woman named Pulsi, who's arranged to be married at 17 and is absolutely dreading it. She even says she'd rather spend time with God than with boys her age. Pulsi almost acts as a contrast to Liz, who's never not been in a relationship. Pulsi is amazed that Liz had the strength and courage to leave her marriage and is always telling her that she looks happy and free. Liz also meets Richard from Texas in India, an assertive man who takes an interest in her because he thinks that they're kindred spirits. Richard offers Liz the perspective of being the one left behind in the relationship, even if his actions were the cause of his divorce. Traveling to India allows Liz the opportunity of perspective taking, which is the second element of having a quiet ego. Perspective taking allows you to bring attention outside of yourself while you reflect on other viewpoints. It helps you find balance between the self and the other because it helps you have empathy and compassion for those around you. Pulsi has the complete opposite emotional experience that Liz had when she was married. Richard from Texas actively took part in destroying his relationship with his son and his marriage. By practicing seeing the world through their eyes, she's able to see the perspective of her ex-husband, Stephen. Throughout their divorce, Liz had a really hard time acknowledging Stephen's pain. She never considered that he may have not had the same emotional experience that she had in the marriage. Liz offered Stephen everything she owned, hoping he would take it and settle the divorce, which is her attempting to fix all of her problems through material means. But Stephen turned it down. In her time in India, Liz learns to shift her perspective, and it helps her release the burden of needing him to forgive her and not forgiving herself. She's able to find closure in knowing that she really did love him, and he really did love her, and that while she chose what's best for herself, that doesn't mean she can't love him and she can't miss him. In her words, she says that God dwells within me, as me, and if God dwells within you, God must dwell within others. So after India, Liz arrives in Bali, Indonesia, and she's feeling pretty good. She finds Ketut. She tells him that everything he said came true, and he looks at her like, who are you? But he does remember eventually, and she goes to work teaching him English and transcribing his writings. So she's living it up in Bali during the afternoon, hanging with Ketut in the mornings, and then she meets a man that hits her with his car. Romantic. But she meets another medicine woman who heals her after being hit. She also meets a party girl, And at this point in her journey, Liz is pretty comfortable being alone. So comfortable that when she goes out with Miss Valentina, she doesn't even fall into the trap of having a romantic fling with the party guy who plays the drums. She's able to recognize the pattern and gracefully choose what's best for her. She starts to catch feelings for the man that knocked her off her bicycle with his car, but she's not sure if she wants to love again or if it's safe to love again, especially not without losing herself. Especially when the medicine woman she meets tells her like, oh, I'm the same way. I lose myself in relationships also, and that's what led me to the abusive relationship I have with my ex-husband. Wine mirrors Liz's light. She reflects back to her what she is aware of about herself, that she tends to lose herself in the other when she's in love. And Liz, in this moment, is doing everything she can not to let that happen again. She was like, not doing it. No love for me. But unfortunately for Liz, that's not what Bali's about. Her journey in Bali is all about learning her inclusive identity. Having an inclusive identity is the third element of having a quiet ego. And having an inclusive identity is basically how you're able to commune with others while still maintaining your own personal balance. How well can you live in a community and have relationships and have friendships without being too selfish and without being too selfless? Yes, Liz found herself in love again and she's scared. But what's different about this man is that he makes it very clear to her. He understands where she's been and he's not asking her to compromise herself. But her guard is up and she pushes him away and goes back to nurturing her inclusive identity in her platonic relationships. Instead of asking her friends to send her a bunch of stuff that she doesn't need for her upcoming birthday, she asks them to donate to Wayan and her daughter so that they could buy a house in Bali. She's able to raise up to $18,000 from her friends across the world and change their lives forever. Liz also gives Ketut the book of his writings that she's transcribed for him and lets him know that she can't be with Felipe anymore because she doesn't want to lose her balance. And Ketut is like, girl, please. Ketut enlightens her to the fact that sometimes in life we will be out of balance for the sake of love and for the sake of self. And the goal is not to remain perfectly in balance all the time, only to know when and how to reset the scale. You're probably like, I thought there were 4 elements. You only said 3, and this movie sounds like it's over with. No. The fourth and final element of achieving a quiet ego is a healthy amount of personal growth. Personal growth is about thinking of the long-term impact of your current moment. How the choices you're making in the moment are going to affect your life in the long term. Liz embarked on her personal growth journey after taking into account the present state of her life and then choosing a different path. She contemplated what the long-term effects would be of living the life that she created but didn't necessarily love. The effects of staying in relationships where she was searching for her happiness in the other person. The effects of living her life going through the motions, not savoring her experiences and always looking for the next best thing. In Eat, Pray, Love, Liz chose personal growth over comfort, and it gave her the gift of balance. On this channel, that's what we're all about, so you know I had to share. When it comes to having a quiet ego, researchers have noticed that people who are able to quiet their ego tend to experience higher self-esteem, positive social relationship, self-compassion, humility. They take more risks. They're more spiritually inclined. They're more open-minded and flexible in their thinking. And they're more likely to feel that their life has meaning. So it sounds like we could all benefit from a quiet ego. Thanks for watching. And as always, I'm sending love and healing your way. Bye.